It was really important for me to create this film to bring people's stories to life, to the big screen, to help people understand and to raise that awareness. It's really important for people living with inflammatory bowel disease that they feel that their stories are heard. It's really special, and I really hope that you enjoy this film.
It was a bit of a daze, to be honest. I can't really remember feeling unwell like before I went on holiday, which is the weird thing.
We was on holiday, we'd gone for my dad's 70th to Tenerife, all the family. James was fine up until when we arrived. All of a sudden, he kept staying in the room. He come down and he said, oh, you know, he's saying he's losing a lot of blood. Obviously you panic because you're in a foreign country to know what to do. And it continued for the whole 10 days we were there.
It was just, like, it was very difficult at the start. Like, how do you say that? It's something quite embarrassing to start off with. Like, I'm an adult trying to be able, like, you're trying to grow up. And I think it was always very difficult to have that initial conversation that something was wrong. Like, me and my parents are very open, and like, they're always very honest. And I think at the start it was just tricky because I was a little bit in denial about what was happening, so like, I didn't really want to acknowledge it.
I think within about 2 months of being poorly, he'd lost like 2 stone in weight. So it was a significant weight loss. Just as soon as he'd eat, it'd go straight through him.
When I was like approaching the doctor about it, one of the first questions was about being sexually active and had I had any like penetrative, I can't even speak, had I had any sex like through my back passage, and could that be a reason why I was bleeding? And I was flat out no, because I hadn't. And then he was talking about like, well, we need to test for HIV because it could be something like that. And like, when he said that, I was just like, you're just not listening.
The GP more or less said, well, let's examine you, and then went through the rigmarole of obviously taking bloods, let's see what's happening. And as I say, my shock was when the GP said, I want to do a HIV test on you.
Mentally, that was like quite hard to deal with, and I've only spoke about it like a few times because like I'd never really understood why that question was said, like, and I don't think it ever needed to be said. I understand you have to like cover all bases, but like for me that was like probably one step too far.
He was very lethargic, very tired. As I say, he was still holding down his full-time job, but he was just taking himself off to bed, and he got really no appetite. He wasn't really eating, because he said every time he ate, it just was as if within minutes of him finishing, he was on the toilet.
I just remember sitting there, and one of my first questions was like, can this kill me? Like, am I gonna die? As I've got older and as I've learned more about living with colitis, I've been able to notice when it's not right, and also put myself first instead of trying to power through it, because that'll never work. One of the challenges living with ulcerative colitis is it's the mental health. Honestly, I think from diagnosis to now, and still now, I feel like that's the thing. The pain and like all of the symptoms, those physical things are very, very real and very scary. Mentally, when you're unwell and when you're having to deal with being unwell, especially post-diagnosis and up to now, it's a scary place. Like, I remember when I was diagnosed, I isolated myself. I was scared to do anything because if I went out and there wasn't a toilet close, I was going to have an accident. I isolated myself so much that like it was scaring me because I didn't want to leave the house. I didn't want to socialise. I sort of like reclused myself into being just James and being unwell and not just James. And like it still to this day like mentally like bothers me because I don't think you ever get over it. You just learn to deal with it better.
Well, he couldn't even socialise, he couldn't go out anywhere. He stopped going out, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because he said, I'll need the toilet, I know I will. As soon as I've eaten, I'll need to go to the toilet. And James, he's quite social. He likes the gatherings, he likes chit-chatting and making conversation, you know. And to all of a sudden, he was just going to his room.
I was so young and so scared, and anything I would put into my tummy, I would just be running to the toilet. Everything, I couldn't absorb nothing, everything was just coming out of me, and I'd look down the toilet and it would look horrendous, like a horror movie, blood everywhere.
I didn't know anything about Crohn's until I met Yvonne, really. And like you said, a lot of people think it's just you can't eat this, can you? You can't eat nuts, you can't eat beef. But it's such a huge spectrum of different symptoms, and every Crohn's patient or colitis patient is totally different.
It took a long time for them to get a diagnosis. You know, we just kept always getting fobbed off with eating disorders, bulimic anorexia, because I was just so tiny, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And fortunately, we did find a doctor, and he did invest a lot of time in me, and he figured out what was wrong with me. But by that point, it was too far gone. I was sent up to Bristol Hospital. My mum actually believes I had it from the age of 4. So you think 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 7 years, misdiagnosed.
As a young person, it's not something you really hear of. It's got a lot of stigma to it. People think, oh, it's something old people have. Then you learn about it. I had a family friend who had a similar sort of with colostomy bags and that, so we learnt about that before she had to have a colostomy bag, which helped a little bit.
People close to me that have been with me, they have a good understanding of it, obviously, like my parents and my husband and my children. But there are people that it will just be like, they know I've got a bag, but they'll just be like, oh, is it just like you can't eat certain foods? Is that the illness? And I'm just like, oh, I wish. It is like going through grief. You're going to grieve your old life, and it is hard, really hard. If you were to say to me, if you could take Crohn's away from me right now, what would I say? I'd say no. I want to keep my Crohn's disease and everything bad that's ever happened to me. And that sounds mad, but no, because that's made me who I am, and it sculpted me into the person I am, and I love that about me. And I think that I'm proud of myself, of the person that I've become, and how many people I've helped at my local hospital, and how many people I've helped on social media.
Super proud of her. Like what she's achieved on her Instagram is phenomenal. It's reached so many people, not just in the UK, worldwide, not just young people, old people as well, but predominantly young people, because young people think it's like an old person's thing to have a bag.
And do you know what? People always say that their illness doesn't define them, and I think what they mean by that is it doesn't stop them. My illness defines me in my brain because it's made me Yvonne. It's made me that person where you can approach me, and I'm that warm, loving person, and I will talk to you.
She's incredibly caring. Like she's always puts everyone else first. It's not always about her. She always makes sure everyone else is okay. She makes sure I'm right. She makes sure the kids are all right before her. She always puts everyone else first.
don't hold your emotions in if you've got this illness, because that's a dark hole you're going to enter. You've got to let your emotions just go.
I was quite ill without actually knowing what was wrong with me. I was a coach driver at the time, and I'd spend many hours sleeping on the back of coaches once I've taken people to events. And do you know, I was always ending up in A&E and didn't really know, because until you get a diagnosis, you've no idea what's wrong with you. It all came to a head in 2008. I went into hospital, A&E again, and I was severely dehydrated. And they decided to keep me in hospital for a couple of days. And I went to the nurses and I said, I'm losing a lot of blood. You need to see this. It was fantastic to get a diagnosis. We actually had a name for it. You know, before that you were just guessing, why are you ill all the time, you know, and I was missing a lot of work. And yeah, I got the diagnosis. 4 years on a lot of tablets, and I'm probably talking about 20 tablets a day. It just totally changed me. I couldn't go anywhere. If I tried to go to work, I would probably leave the house, get to the top of the street in the car, soil myself, turn around, go back, have another shower, and then it's a case of what do you do? Do you continue and go back to work, or do you ring in sick? Being that ill is such a dark place. I'm quite an outgoing person. I absolutely have an amazing love for life. And it just changed me as a person. In 2012, I had a 10-hour operation to have my home of the stoma, we call him. And yeah, it has totally transformed my life. I've had the best 10 years of my life. I can honestly say that, you know. There is life after illness. What I think has helped me the most has been my positivity. On top of my positivity, it's been my family, especially my wife, because this journey is not a journey just for us. This is a family journey, a partner journey. I have children, I have grandchildren. They are all involved in this journey. I have a son who has Crohn's, a sister who has Crohn's, a young grandson who has just been diagnosed Crohn's. This is a family journey. We are all in this together. And we all support each other. So anybody watching this, I thank you for your support, 100%.
I think it was 2008 I started to notice some symptoms of what I now know was ulcerative colitis, but at the time I obviously didn't know what it was. I was working away from home, and I didn't have access to the bathroom weighing scales, so I had there was this one particular day where I'd gone to get dressed and everything in my suitcase just didn't fit all of a sudden, and I was a bit like quite taken aback by that, because I wasn't aware of the fact that I was losing weight. When things got to a point where I couldn't ignore it, I did go to the GP and I explained what was happening, and the discomfort and the fatigue and the urgency for the bathroom, to be fair to the GP, she was wonderful, and she had an inkling it was inflammatory bowel disease, and she wanted to refer me on to the hospital to get some further tests. And I was around the age of 20 or 21, and the thought of having a colonoscopy, having never had any hospital stays before, was so daunting for me that I went home and I hid under the duvet for an entire year, just running back and forth to the bathroom, in the end thinking that was it, thinking that the end was nigh. I was stuck at home for 2 years. I didn't go out. I didn't go anywhere for 2 years. I couldn't get over the front doorstep. As soon as I get to the top of the road, I wanted to run back to the safety of my home. And that's difficult. That's 2 years of my life. I didn't go anywhere. I think the turning point for me was a nurse came in one evening and sat on the end of my bed with a piece of paper and a pen and drew me a really nice doodle and kind of explained what the procedure was, and that really helped me to settle my nerves. And then I got the test done and the diagnosis there and then. I was in the hospital for a fortnight, 3 days worth of saline drips, and trying to get me back on the right road, because even though I was like starving inside, I just didn't have an appetite, and I couldn't eat. to kind of give an example of how bad things were, I couldn't so much as eat a slice of bread, a corner of bread, and I was full. I felt full. I couldn't eat, even though I was starving inside and I was 6 stone thin and bones. There was nothing left of me. So yeah, that was my diagnosis. When I was first diagnosed, I went a number of years and I hadn't spoken to anybody else going through the same thing. All of the coping strategies that I'd come up with, I thought I was the only person that was doing those things. It turns out I'm not. So I started to write a blog online, and it was that connecting with others and people kind of validating and saying, oh, I do those things too. That really helped. And I think because I now speak with people every single day, and I just feel for them, because the standards of care are not in place, and I can't understand how somebody so young can be given this lifelong diagnosis and not be given the follow-up support. It blows my mind.
It's an incredibly scary time, and when you just need to feel a little bit validated that you're not the only one going through this, there's nothing better than being able to speak out with people that understand you.
There's nothing worse than thinking, oh, I'm the only one that's going through this, and just locking yourself away. It won't do you any good.
I think if it wasn't for my husband, I don't think I would have been able to do it. Sorry.
GYBO provides support, education and advocacy for a global community of people that have Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis.
Some of the best things about Get Your Belly Out for me would probably be, I've developed some really long-lasting friendships, and had the community of Get Your Belly Out not been formed or not have been here, I wouldn't have these relationships with people. Some of these people are my closest friends and will be for a very long time.
The Get Your Belly Out community is great because it's given James that ability to share his experiences, to try and help others.
If you don't have massive families, like myself, then I think communities like Get Your Belly Out are certainly where you should be looking, because the support is amazing. There's no judgmental stuff going on. It's real people with real illnesses who've been through this, who are going through this, and the important thing is, don't isolate yourself. Get out there. Even if it's just a message, do something about it. Because there's nothing worse than thinking, oh, I'm the only one that's going through this, and just locking yourself away. It won't do you any good. There's a community out there. Get Your Belly Out is one of the fantastic communities, and they are waiting for you to get involved.
Get Your Belly Out, and definitely the communities on Instagram definitely helps, not just Yvonne's side of the patient side. It's good for people like me who's in the other shoes with a partner, like a carer, can go to events or go to these people that have other people that are carers and share the same experiences, because it's not all about the patient. It's what sometimes the carer needs extra support, like talk to people about other things.
I found the Get Your Belly Out community through Facebook, and I can remember just seeing loads of pictures of bellies, and they were all different kinds of bellies, and there was so many with colostomy bags, and I was just like, wow, this is new. This is a thing that's not done on social media, And this is so comforting for me to see. And I was a confident person and got my colostomy bag out on beaches and holidays anyway. But when I saw that on social media, it was like, this is going to help so many people. It's helped me, and it made me feel really proud. So then I started doing posts for Get Your Belly Out, and then they were like, would you like to share a story with us, Yvonne? And I was like, yes, I would love to do that. And it was so nice for me to be able to help Get Your Belly Out community. And then all the feedback in my inbox is from people saying, your Get Your Belly Out story has helped me. Your Get Your Belly Out story made me go and get surgery. I wasn't going to get it. Your Get Your Belly Out story made me understand my daughter's journey. Your Get Your Belly Out story saved my life. I had from one person.
I find by talking, it's a massive help, and it's a weight off your shoulders if you can discuss, if you have any feelings, you're a bit sad or you're a bit upset about something, and if you talk about it, it helps a lot.
So I think my advice to other people is to just take one day at a time. You'll find your way, you'll find the information and the education that you know about how best to look after yourself with this disease, with this illness, and join a community like Get Your Belly Out, speak with like-minded people, come to social activities where there's such a relaxed atmosphere that you can participate or you can sit on the sidelines. There's no pressure whatsoever because everybody understands what you're going through. Get Your Belly Out has had a huge impact on my life. I think connecting with other people that know what I'm going through made the biggest difference to me. To feel that you have support, to feel that you're not on your own, I think that makes a huge difference.
Being able to just talk openly and honestly about my illness, I wouldn't feel that way I do now if Get Your Belly Out didn't exist. That's why I'll always be thankful, for Get Your Belly Out, because it was a lifeline at a time in my life where I was really vulnerable.
It's brought communities together, and it's also helped me to meet a lot of people that without Get Your Belly Out I wouldn't have met.
It's built my confidence, and I think that's probably the best thing about it.
Get Your Belly Out is actually life-saving for people, and it's actually inspired me and it's made me so proud.
It's been priceless.
I know you've heard the cliche of life is too short, but I have lost so many people through so many illnesses, and they would change places with me in a heartbeat. They absolutely would love to be sitting here being filmed, but they're no longer with us. So I live my life every single day in a positive way for them. They can't be here, I can. I'm going to enjoy every single day. Don't waste your life, you only get it once.
Come and find Get Your Belly Out on all of the social media platforms. We also have a website which is getyourbellyout.org.uk, and you'll find all the information you need there.